It's my honor that you are joining me for this presentation. Today, I am going to present quality of drinking water in rural areas, problems of legal environment. Currently, one of the urgent problems facing Ukraine is to provide the population with drinking water of proper quality and in sufficient quantities. Our country already has a water shortage, ranking 111th in the world out of 152 in terms of available water resources. From year to year, there is a process not only for reducing water supplies in general, but also the rapid deterioration of its quality characteristic, which makes it impossible to use such water for human consumption or has a very negative impact on public health. The situation is especially difficult in rural areas. Published official data, the latest as for 2019, on the state of sources and systems of drinking water supply in rural areas clearly illustrates the existing problems in terms of providing drinking water to the rural population of Ukraine. You can see it. The problem of contamination of drinking water sources in rural areas with nitrates should be singled out, as agriculture activity is the main cause of this type of pollution, and drinking water with excessive content of these substances is potentially dangerous for all and especially harmful for children, provoking water nitrate, methamoglobina, other disease. Data on average content of nitrates in artesian and groundwater in different regions of Ukraine are shown in this picture. One of the ways to improve drinking water supply in rural areas should be clear and effective legal regulation. According to the international Article 4 of Council Directive 98/83/EU on the quality of water intended for human consumption, and domestic Article 1 of the Law of Ukraine on drinking water supply, and sewerage legislation. Drinking water is considered safe and clean if it meets the established requirements of organoleptic, microbiological, parasitological, chemical, physical, and radiation parameters. These indicators are regulated firstly at the international level and then at the national level. Ukraine has state sanitary norms and rules, hygienic requirements for drinking water intended for human consumption, approved by the order of Ministry of Health of Ukraine, and national standards of Ukraine, drinking water requirements and methods of quality control. As a generalization of the results of existing scientific research shows, the above mentioned state sanitary norms and national standards of Ukraine do not fully take into account international standards for drinking water, domestic document differentiation, and the requirements for tap water, water from wells, catchments of springs, and packaged water, in contrast to Council Directive 98/83/EU, which sets uniform general requirements for indicators of drinking water quality and safety. In our opinion, the approach inherent at the international level is more correct, and the basic minimum requirements for drinking water quality should be the same regardless of the source of such resources. Differentiated for sources of centralized and decentralized drinking water supply, it is advisable to set additional requirements or expand the list of indicators of quality and safety of water needed for human consumption. Between the national standards of Ukraine and state sanitary norms and rules, there are other inconsistencies in terms of epidemic safety indicators, the maximum allowable content of chemical and toxicological indicators. In order to eliminate such conflicts, in our opinion, it is first necessary to bring state sanitary norms and rules in line with Council Directive 98/83/EU in terms of drinking water quality indicators, and the next step should be to bring national standards of Ukraine in accordance with state sanitary norms and rules. The next aspect we would like to focus on is the legal regulation of monitoring the quality of drinking water in rural areas. We'll know that in 2018, for replacement of the order of implementation of state monitoring of waters approved by the resolution of Cabinet Minister of Ukraine, and the resolution of Cabinet Minister of Ukraine number 70/80/15 and 70/50/8, the procedure for implementation of the state monitoring of waters was approved. This document corresponds to Annex 2002 Chapter Environment of Chapter 5 Economic and Sectoral Cooperation of the Association Agreement and the Directive 2060/EU of the European Parliament and of the Council of established a framework for community action in the field of water policy. Considering the provision of the current procedure for state water monitoring through the prism of monitoring the field of drinking water supply, we consider as a shortcoming the lack of a list of subjects of state water monitoring of the central executive body implementing state health policy. We support the existing proposals on the need to separate from the structure of the state service of Ukraine for food safety and consumer protection of the state sanitary and epidemiological service of Ukraine, and propose to include this body in the state monitor of water for drinking water. Also important for determining the state of drinking water sources in rural areas in the issue of monitoring the nitrate content in surface and groundwater. The obligation to carry out such monitoring is provided by the Council Directive 91/676 of 12 December 1991 on the protection of water against pollution caused by nitrates from agricultural sources. Ukraine needs to intensify work on the development of the procedure for state monitoring of nitrate content in surface and groundwater as part of state water monitoring. One of the principles of state policy in the field of drinking water supply and drainage of Article 6 of the Law of Ukraine on drinking water supply and sewerage calls for free access to information on the quality of drinking water, the state of sources and system of drinking water supply and drainage. And in Article 9, every consumer of drinking water is guaranteed the right to free access to information on drinking water quality. In our opinion, the above methods of information the population about the quality of drinking water through the publication of an annual report and in case of pollution of drinking water do not fully guarantee compliance with the right to information about the state of drinking water. For example, the National Report of Drinking Water Quality and the state of drinking water supply in Ukraine in 2019 has been published so far. So we have official information a year ago, so to speak, in retrospect. From information, the population about the current state of drinking water quality is very limited, and available resources vary in the amount of information and presentation. For example, the website of Kyiv Водоканал constantly updates macrobiological and physico-chemical indicators of drinking water quality control at control points of the distribution water supply network of Kyiv. The website of Chernobyl Водоканал contains average macrobiological and sanitary chemical indicators of drinking water quality as of the third quarter of 2020. There are also data on the quality of drinking water and some observation points water intakes. You can see in this figure. With regards to rural settlements, there are not such resources and free access to all. Instead, commercial structure proposes the development of a very important and promising tool for local communities to accumulate data on the state of drinking water sources, influences responsible for the provision of water supply service, and plan measures to improve drinking water quality, drinking water supply, protection of sources and systems, drinking water suppliers, restoration of drinking water supplies, interactive maps of drinking water quality. However, these initiatives remain unpopular in practice due to limited local budgets. And we propose to include this national target program drinking water of Ukraine for 2021-2025, the project of which is currently being developed as a separate measure to develop an interactive map of drinking water quality in Ukraine and providing funding. With that, I want to end my presentation. Thank you for listening.